Well, I'm joined now by military analyst, retired Air Vice Marshal Sean Bell. And Sean, as Stuart was saying, the fact that they're in the war, the anger over these barrages doesn't cease, does it? How significant was what happened last night?
Well, it was the first time in the last 3 weeks that Russia's launched one of these major attacks. The Russian defence minister has claimed this is a retribution because of the Ukrainian alleged attacks at Bryansk just about a week ago. But these attacks were conducted all across Ukraine, so from Kiev up to the north, down to Odessa to the south. But there were 10 different regions hit, so it was absolutely widespread. Allegedly, they've announced 6 people have been killed, but when you look at the sum of the devastation, it's quite possible that number will rise. The Ukrainians say there were 81 missiles launched. That's a bigger number than we've seen for some time, a whole mix of about 8 Shahed 136, those Iranian drones, about a load of cruise missiles. But also, interestingly, they've also reckoned that 6 of these Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, seen here on a Foxhound aircraft, were also launched. First time we've seen them used in that sort of number. Now, the Ukrainians claim they shot down about 34 of these cruise missiles and 4 of the drones, but inevitably some got through, and even those they shot down, the debris will have fallen on the ground. It does appear the Russians will once again looking at striking energy infrastructure, and here's the Kyiv thermoelectric power plant that was struck last night. You can see the devastation there, and there's widespread reports of electricity outages across the country this morning. Meanwhile,
at Zaporizhzhia, again, a really close hit there. And this is, a pretty significant nuclear plant, isn't it?
It is. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant been held by the Russians since right at the start of the war. These Russian strikes knocked out the electricity supply to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Now, why is this important? Well, nuclear power plants, they desperately need continuous supply of electricity to provide the coolant to stop these plants going to meltdown. Now, because it's so important, if the electricity supply is triggered off, there is a backup, and that's 20 diesel generators. We understand 8 of them are online at the moment. The rest are in standby. We also understand there's 15 days supply of diesel available. But the danger is we start to sound complacent about this. This is the 6th time in the last 12 months that this system, the emergency generators, are having to be used as the last line of defence. And this is the biggest single nuclear reactor in Europe. The alarming bit, unfortunately, is we've quite understandably focused at the fighting in Bakhmut, just over your right shoulder there. But the fighting continues all the way along a front from Zaporizhzhia to Volodar. And although it's not active, the Russians are concerned that that's where the punch will come from a Ukrainian counterattack. The Russians are digging in, they're constantly shelling the Ukrainians, and all of that's happening just miles away from a major nuclear power plant.
You mentioned Bakhmut. What is happening up around there at the minute?
Yeah, very briefly, the noose is tightening around Bakhmut. Yevgeny Prigozhin, who's the leader of the Wagner Group, he claims that they are now in control of Bakhmut. In reality, it looks like they control about half it. You can just about see the Bakhmuta River running north-south through the middle of Bakhmut. It looks likely the Russians control the eastern side, the Ukrainians control the western side. But the tricky bit here is this 504 route. It's the only remaining road in and out of Bakhmut. That's what the Ukrainians are using for resupplying their soldiers, and that's becoming increasingly tense. And I think that's going to be quite pivotal in the next 2 or 3 days. But on the more positive note, the Western armour that's due to arrive for the spring offensive, the Germans and the Poles have announced that 28 of the Leopard 2 tanks are due to arrive before the end of March. Clearly, that's well below the 300 that President Zelenskyy asked for, but at least it's a start.
OK, Sean, thanks a lot.